Each data graphic should contain one and exactly one message. If you have two messages to explain, then you should use two data graphics. This is a simple rule, and it's the best way to make sure your audience can understand each data graphic. The main source of confusion here is that one message is not necessarily the same thing as one finding or one data point. There might be multiple related findings that all point to the same message. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are showing data about a study on the relationship between eating grapefruits and asthma medication. The main conclusion of the study was that eating grapefruits prevents asthma medication from having its full effect. So this is one key message. But there are several important pieces of data that are relevant for the same message, and here I'm illustrating all of those data points on this one graph. First of all, you need to know that the medication works well in people who don't eat grapefruit when they are taking their asthma medication. Then you need to know that eating grapefruits while taking the medication reduces the effectiveness of the medication. It's also relevant to know whether this effect is also true if you are eating grapefruit in the morning and taking the medication at a different time of the day, for example, in the afternoon. Finally, it's relevant to know whether this is something about fruits in general or just grapefruits in particular. So here, these data show that there does seem to be something specific to grapefruits and not to apples or oranges. Now, let me be clear that these are totally made up data. I highly doubt that a grapefruit has such a negative impact on asthma medication. But the point is that there is one data graphic, and that has one key message, and yet there are many data points that are relevant for illustrating that key message. Now let me give you a counterexample. Here is a figure showing that grapefruit attenuates the effects of medication, and here you see that people who commute to work using major roads in urban areas have worse asthma than people who commute to work using residential roads in more residential areas. Now, these are two interesting sets of findings, but they have pretty much nothing to do with each other except that they're all related to asthma. So there are actually two messages in this plot, one about grapefruit and medication, and one about the nature of the commute and the location of the commute. The problem with showing two different messages in the same plot is that your audience will assume that these two pieces of information must be connected, and they will be searching for the connection between them. And if there is no connection between them, then your audience may completely miss one of these messages because they are distracted by finding the common link, or they may be confused and annoyed because the data graphics aren't split up and too much information is being packed into individual graphics. So the conclusion of this video can be summed up in pretty simple terms. One graphic corresponds to one message.